Hey there dreamers, it's me Jacqueline. Welcome back to my channel. We have recently undergone a name change and I thought it only right that our first video should be a Hoya collection. I have moved during the pandemic this year and I am in a different setting than the last time you saw me. I'm also changing the focus of this channel from more beauty related things to more plant related things, and that is my own personal inner shift as well as what I'd like this channel to be. And I understand that some people may not be down for that, and that's okay. This is what I'm interested in right now and what I've been interested in for quite some time. Caring for plants in my home has been a great stress reliever as well as a new hobby of mine, and I now own many houseplants. I would give you a number, but I truly don't have one right now. I haven't counted recently. I want to share with you all the Hoyas that I own today because they are my favorite genus thus far. I wanted to talk to you guys about these today because it just seemed like good context for where the name came from. This is my largest Hoya. This is my Hoya Australis, and this I picked up at a hardware store in an 8-inch pot, and it just seemed like I couldn't tell how well it was draining, so I wanted to put it in terracotta. Bought it with a peduncle, which broke off when I moved, and it has since put off a tiny baby peduncle in here somewhere. This lovely plant is my Hoya Cardosa green. This was my first Hoya, I believe, and this one I bought in this pot. I have kept it in there. This plant is growing like crazy. It has been since the spring. It's putting off much larger leaves now that I have it close to a grow light. This one happens to have this little one vine towards the center there that you can see has some variegation similar to a Crimson Princess, which I guess we will do next. Crimson Princess. This has not only pink vines, as you can kind of see here, but it has this white variegation on the center. It is a really fast grower for me. This isn't a 6-inch pot. I have a little trellis in there that is completely filling out. This is the larger of my two Crimson Princess plants, and the other one is hanging in my bedroom. I'd like to get one of those hoop trellises for, just because I think with it being this full and this mature that it might bloom for me relatively soon. Hopefully. This I was really excited to actually get at a Lowe's. I went up to the checkout and it just so happened to be one of my regulars working at the counter there, and so she discounted this plant for me, and I want to say I got it for like $8. I suppose we should talk about the inverse now, which is the Hoya Cardosa Crimson Queen. I actually have two of these as well. I recently purchased a second one just because this one wasn't doing so hot. I have had this plant for 8 months, something like that, and it has done nothing. And when I moved, this was one of many plants that got a little bit sunburned. You can kind of see her sunburned spots in a few areas. This plant lost about half its leaves when I moved. It just this week has put out 2 new growth points. This leaf is brand new, this all white leaf here. This one has much wider leaves and almost looks like a Hoya Chelsea or a Hoya Crinkle 8 in that it's much rounder and has the little divots in it. But I really enjoy both. My intention is to put them together in a pot, but I just haven't disrupted it yet. I try not to repot my Hoyas immediately unless it's absolutely necessary. This is a Hoya Cardosa Compacta, or a Hoya Hindu rope, but the technical name is the Cardosa Compacta. This is a lovely shiny green pasta. It's beautiful. It trails when it becomes more mature. I gotta think that this plant is like years old to have this long of trails, but again, being at Lowe's where I picked this up, it was like $11 or $12 with tax for this gigantic 6-inch pot. I got really lucky with this one and I love this plant. I do tend to shower it every time I water it just because pests have a tendency to hide in crevices of plants, and this plant is just begging for that. This was labeled as 2 different plants. One was a Hoya bilobata and one was a Hoya DS70. Those are 2 different plants, it's my understanding at least. And this plant is lovely. Some people who have a plant that looks very similarly to this online will also call it the Hoya SP Affinity Bertoniae. I'm not sure what the right name is. I'm just throwing it out there. These are the potential names of this plant. I think the only real way to know with Hoyas is to wait for them to bloom. Hopefully mine will bloom. So far I've only had one bloom, and maybe we'll talk about that one next. I generally take the same kind of care for most of my Hoyas, where I let them completely dry out, meaning like a 1 on my moisture meter, or I just know by the weight of it that it's completely dry and I need to water it. But because I do let my Hoyas dry out as thoroughly as that, I try to water them equally as thoroughly. So I will bottom water them as opposed to top down watering, just because I feel like the soil better absorbs the moisture that way. Oh, I said I was going to talk about the one that bloomed next. The Hoya that I've had bloom for me is my Hoya Multiflora, and that one is also called the Shooting Star Hoya. That one is absolutely beautiful. I think I missed a watering by a day or two, so most of the buds fell off, though I've heard that there's actually a term for that, and that happens pretty regularly. It did bloom for me for the first time, and it was one solitary bloom. It was beautiful, and it lasted several weeks. Hoya Multiflora is a thinner leafed Hoya, so that is one that I don't let fully dry out like I was just discussing. That one I let it just get to the, oh, I'm dry on the moisture scale, and then I'll water it. This one is my Hoya Carrii. This I bought in a little 4-inch pot and immediately repotted it into terracotta because I didn't know any better. Surprisingly, it has done just fine. When I purchased this plant, it was only to here. It was just this amount of plant. It was these leaves here at the bottom. This has all grown in the last couple of months. This one has been a pretty rapid grower for me once it got established. I think I did it the disservice by, repotting it, but it's grown tremendously. It's what, tripled in length. Not foliage yet, but we're working on it. By the way, yes, it is still quarantine. I mean, for me, it's still quarantine. My hair has not been cut or colored since like February, so it's very long and my roots are not cute. So thanks for coming to my TED Talk. This one I purchased from Gabriella Plants not too long ago. This is a Hoya Macrophylla albomarginata. All that albomarginata means is that there's white variegation on the outsides, on the margins. This is its newest leaf. I have posted pictures of this on Instagram. If you don't follow me there, you can check that out down below. But it is bigger than a lot of its existing leaves, and it has not started hardening off yet, so I think it's still growing, which is very exciting. This plant in particular is in a 4-inch pot, and I have not changed what it's arrived in. It's in a pretty dense media, like kind of moisture retentive soil for what I know Hoyas to like, but I didn't want to disrupt it, so I just kind of left it this way. I treat this one watering the same way I do all my other Hoyas, and this one I'm very excited to say, not only was it a generous purchase in that there are 5 plants in this pot, but among those 5 plants, I have 5 new growth points that is not this leaf included. I'm so excited. I feel like this one's doing really well in my care. I was nervous about it just because this was probably one of the first more unusual Hoyas that I got. Next, I want to mention my Hoya pubicalyx. This one I can't say is any particular variation just because I didn't buy it labeled any such variation. And as I mentioned before, it has not bloomed. So a lot of times how you differentiate between Hoya plants is the color of their blooms. So if you're trying to narrow it down, a lot of times it's just a big waiting game. I'm just not sure what it truly is because there are so many different varieties, but it has been a really prolific grower for me. The leaves on this one are a little bit more pliable, so they do speak a little bit more to when this particular plant wants to be watered. Another plant that is hanging in my bedroom, among the other ones we have talked about, is the Hoya bella or the Hoya lanceolata. This one in particular has very small leaves for a Hoya, and they are thinner, similar to the Multiflora that we talked about before. So this one is another one that I don't let dry out as completely as the others. I let it just get to dry and then water it again. This one is, among the Hoya community, a prolific bloomer, though mine has not shown any signs of peduncles yet, even though it is a pretty full 6-inch pot. Around the same time when I got the Bella, I got a Hoya obovata. Hoya obovatas, the traditional ones, do have some splash, some pretty significant sunburns. Similar to the Crimson Queen, this one did get sunburned from some direct sun exposure. While it's notoriously a pretty fast grower for other people, has done almost nothing for me. It's put out a couple of tendrils, a couple of vines, but it has just now put out 2 new leaves that I am just so excited to see grow. I have resisted the urge to touch them or let anything touch them. If you have not learned yet, Hoya baby leaves are so delicate, and I have accidentally knocked off so many. Maybe I'm just cleaning up the mature leaves, or I'm watering something, and oh my goodness, it's the most heartbreaking thing ever. Because if you didn't know, Hoyas also kind of bleed sap, similar to like a ficus, and it's really tragic. Anyway, my Hoya Finlaysonii. I've heard that there are many different kinds of Finlaysonii. This one, I am not sure what specific kind it is, just because it was not labeled, but I'm really hoping that it's not my imagination seeing this little tiny growth point here. I believe is new growth. If it's not, I'm going to continue believing that it's new growth because that makes me happy. This is a rooted cutting that I bought online fairly recently. This one, at first when it arrived, the leaves were very soft, and it was not even standing out straight. I think it was just heat from being in a box in the summer on its way to me, but this one I feel like has really perked up since it's been in my care, though it has not really done anything exciting. I'm still hopeful about that maybe non-existent growth point. This next little guy is my tiny little Hoya parasitica. This does only have 2 leaves right now. It arrived with 6. Sadly, most baby leaves when they are shipped don't tend to stay on the plant. So slowly but surely, each one of those baby leaves did shrivel up and fall off. But there is still a tiny growth point in the center where a new vine or new leaves will still be able to grow and come out. This is just a baby rooted cutting as well. I think this one is going to have pretty cool markings based on these leaves that it has right now. Sorry, they're kind of dirty. This is another tiny baby. This is my Hoya curtsy or curtsy. I'm not really sure which is the correct way to pronounce it. But this is just the tiniest, most delicate little Hoya, and it seems to be growing pretty well. It has lots of little growth points. I don't have any small leafed Hoyas besides the Bella, so this one is just so dainty and delicate, and I'm really excited to watch it grow. I do wish it was bigger, but as you probably know, Hoyas are outrageously expensive, so we're just gonna watch the babies grow. I feel like this one gives me a little bit of anxiety. This is the newest one to my care. This is called the Hoya Incrusata SRQ 3024 Hoya Moonshadow. I don't know if it's both. I don't know if it's one or the other, but that's what I bought it as. And this is a beautiful, sturdy leafed Hoya. I'm excited to see what the growth pattern is going to look like. This is 2 small rooted cuttings. I did receive them in leca, which is not something that I have any other plants in. I did a lot of research online, and they said that despite Hoyas being able to grow sufficient roots in water, they actually grow sturdier roots in this form, sitting in leca. If you're not familiar with what leca is or semi-hydroponics, I would encourage you to look that up. I am not the person who should be educating you on such a subject, being that this is the only thing I have in leca. Wish me luck. I really don't want to kill this thing. I really just want it to live and be happy and become a plant someday. But right now, it is just kind of a thing I don't want to breathe too loudly around because I'm just scared it'll die. I hope you enjoyed this tour of my Hoyas. If you have questions for me, please leave them in the comments down below, as well as liking this video before you go. I really appreciate that. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.